This is a short presentation I put together when I was working with my counsellor in 2017 to try and explain how my body had reacted to excessive and long-term levels of stress and how it had caused a reaction in my heart, which was then further exacerbated by anxiety. The first part of the slideshow shows how we react to normal levels of stress, and the second part talks about how we react to excessive and long-term levels of stress. The first I need to mention is that basically two pots, the stress pot and the anxiety pot, and I've set up a series of pipes to show how excessive levels of stress can affect things physically, as in the heart, and how that can then the complications and the adverse reactions to the heart can then cause anxiety, which fills up the second pot. And the piping, the position of the piping, just be demonstrated as we go through the slideshow. So we all have stress in life, whether it be work, health, money, family, and that will ebb and flow throughout life, and we'll have the stress pot will fill up during various events in life. But when it's kept at a low level, there doesn't tend to be a reaction from the physical side of things. But when the stress comes to a level that is more excessive, then it can cause a physical reaction. And in my case, it was a physical reaction from my heart, where I started getting palpitations. And that physical reaction can then cause health anxiety, where you start to feel really anxious about your physical state. And that then goes and fills up it's pumped into the anxiety pot. And that starts to fill up. So the stress may dissipate, but the anxiety pot is now fuller than it was because of the reaction from the heart. But if that again stays at a lowered level, we have this thing called the confidence tap, where we can realize that things are okay, the stress has disappeared, and we're able to deal with the anxiety through confidence and drain the anxiety pot to stop it from becoming too full, and we return back to equilibrium. When we look at excessive stress, so this is long-term excessive levels of stress, things take a different path. And from my point of view, this is the timeline that I went through. So 2010 work started to become very stressful, and that built up over 2011, and it started then to affect my heart because the overflow had caused a reaction, and then that in 2012 spilt over into palpitations and being off work for 6 weeks because of stress, and that caused anxiety. So not only was my stress pot filling up and overflowing into the pump, into my heart, but also the anxiety pot was starting to fill up. And because that then continued through 2013, and my stress pot filled up even more, and because of the reactions that I had, the excessive, frightening, different palpitations, the anxiety pot started to fill up, and that then swamped the confidence tap, so I was unable to drain the anxiety pot, and the stress then continued again because I was fearful for my job. I was fearful for how that would affect my income and obviously my family. So the stress continued to grow, and that then caused more reactions in the heart, which then caused the anxiety pot to fill up, and then it became into a situation where it was overflowing as well into my pump. So not only was I getting palpitations because of my stress levels, but also because of the anxiety caused by those palpitations. So I was in a pretty dire state in 2014. And then 2015, I sort of got a handle on the stress side of things. I down tools a bit at work and got things in perspective a bit more. And also my workload reduced. So I was able to deal with the stress and minimize its impact. But because the anxiety pot was overflowing and the confidence tab had been swamped, and I couldn't use it, and I couldn't even see it in some cases. My confidence was at an all-time low. The cycling effect of the anxiety palpitations continued. So the anxiety would start the palpitations, which will make me more anxious. So it was a continual cycle of anxiety, palpitation, anxiety. And that continued through 2016. I tried using exercise to reduce the anxiety, and it had a sort of slightly beneficial effect, where it reduced the level of anxiety below the overflow. So that sort of reduced the palpitations and the effect on the heart. And then in 2017, all the news of everything that went on in the world in that year, all the terrorist attacks in this country and across the world, made me anxious again and filled up the anxiety pot, which then triggered a reaction in my heart, and the cycle started again. And it was only when I started to receive help from the occupational health doctor at work did things start to change, and the doctor heard my struggles, and he heard my challenges, and he recommended an approach that would set me on a different path. So he recommended I have my heart checked out, and because my heart was okay, considering what it had been through, that then reduced my anxiety from my worries about my heart, and that reduced my anxiety pot even further, which then stopped it overflowing. But there was still anxiety in my heart because I hadn't dealt with the underlying effects of the mental illness that my occupational health doctor had diagnosed. Things changed when I went for counselling, and the counsellor really helped me see what the challenges were, and that they weren't physical, that they were psychological. And he gave me advice on how to tackle that anxiety, and how to face it, and how to gradually increase my level of exercise to prove to my brain, and to prove to my psychological side that things were okay. And he also gave me tips on how to show better self-care, and to deal and to focus more on the psychological side and the benefits that will bring. And he gave me relaxation techniques that I was able to use, that demonstrated and allowed me to control the palpitations when they happened. And gradually over 2017, through the counselling, through the cardiology checkup, through the exercise I was doing, I was able to refine my confidence tap, and I was able to rebuild my confidence, which then allowed me to rationalise the anxiety and to find ways of minimising the impact. And gradually that allowed me to drain the anxiety pot. And now I'm more back in the state where my pot is drained, my anxiety pot is drained, and I'm back into the normal reaction to levels of stress where situations happen in life. But I've now got a lot more spare capacity in the two pots to be able to deal with those things in a better way. And I've also got the tools and the techniques that I was given by my counsellor to be able to recognise when anxiety is building up, to be able to recognise when stress is building up, and to be able to manage them in a different way, more proactive way, instead of it getting to that point where I was in 2014, where things were just getting just so difficult to manage, and they were the limits of my pots and my capabilities to deal with it. So that's my sort of interpretation of the excessive levels of stress, and how the body can react, which causes greater levels of anxiety and greater physical reactions. If that's useful. Thank you.